Good evening and welcome to another edition of Conservative Corner. I am your host, Tom Mountain, and we are broadcasting from the wonderful studios at New TV here in Newton, Massachusetts. We are all familiar with the January 6, 2021 incursion, protest, call it what you will. We've all seen it and heard about it, and it was a major staple of our news media for most, if not all, of the Biden administration. But the January 6th protest was just that. It was a protest. It was not, as the Biden administration and their darlings in the liberal media described, as an attempt to overthrow the government in insurrection. Because if it was an insurrection, it had to have been one of the most incompetent, comical, bumbling insurrections in history. You cannot have an insurrection without weapons. The several or many tens of thousands of people from the Trump world, from the MAGA protesters who did go to the U.S. Capitol that day, the interesting thing about them is that nobody had any weapons. Nobody had any guns, firearms, knives, bats, nothing. So if you're going to overthrow government, don't you think you need weapons? I mean, this was not the storming of the Bastille. This was a protest. It was a protest then, and the media distorted it. The Biden administration distorted it to really an obscene extent. And as a result, they wreaked havoc throughout the country, and they destroyed or tried to destroy a lot of people's lives who were involved in that protest that day, and one of whom is here with us today. And I'm very glad to have a lady named Sue Ayani, who is locally here. Sue, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And Sue has a very interesting story because she was in those protests on January 6th. I wasn't at the protest at the time. The only reason being is because I was finishing with COVID. But she took the 8-hour bus ride down there and joined the protests and went into the Capitol peacefully and left the Capitol peacefully. However, the Biden administration and their cohorts in the Democrat congressional contingent sought to have a witch hunt of any individual who went into the Capitol building that day, even if they just walked in and walked out. And as a result, they went after these people, law-abiding citizens, and they tried to indict them and succeeded in indicting them with very cooperative judges in the District of Washington, D.C., on the flimsiest minimal charges that one can imagine. Sue Ayani was one of those unfortunate victims of the Biden administration witch hunt. And I'm going to let her tell her story, and it's something to ponder, to consider that this happened in America to an American citizen. This is not North Korea. This was not 1970s Cambodia. This is not communist China. Listen to her story and realize again, this is 2021 in the United States of America. So Sue, tell us what happened to you, and you were there, and what happened. Take us through it if you would.
Okay, excuse me. I had planned buses to go down for the organization I was a part of, and I personally had 5 buses with a couple other bus captains, and then we coordinated with other people in the state, and as well as New Hampshire and Vermont.
So you had all the buses?
12 buses altogether.
To go down to Washington, D.C., and the purpose of the rally was?
It was called the Save America Rally. It was the 3rd time we were down there, to stop the steal.
Okay.
That was the theme for all 3 rallies that we attended.
For the 2020 election, because it was
obviously
assumed,
stolen.
and
Obvious to us that it was stolen.
As did I assume that that the election was, at a minimum, there were major irregularities, and they stole the election, et cetera, et cetera. And so you went down there. It was a nationwide protest of MAGA Trump supporters. And how many people would you say were there?
The estimates range from 1 million to 1.5 million.
Really, that many?
Yeah, it was that many. It was bigger than the first one, which was 500,000.
So you went down to the protests, and you were planning to go to the protests and spend the day there, and then come home that day?
Yes, we. Again, it was our 3rd time in Washington. The press didn't pay much attention to the first 2 times we were down there. All 3 times we were on Capitol lawn. We never had a problem before. We felt safe being on that lawn. And for this particular rally, they handed out flyers which instructed us, okay, now you go to the Capitol lawn, and they had a stage set up, and speakers were coming out, like Representative Gosar, and I believe Ted Cruz was scheduled at some point.
And what did the
others.
president, initially you were at a rally up
Right.
the street with the president, and what
Yes.
exactly did he tell the crowd, just to remind our viewers?
Oh, well, to be honest, I heard what Trump said to the crowd days after because I had trouble hearing
So you
him.
didn't hear it, but
I couldn't hear him. The sound was sketchy in our
Sure.
area because we were way back from the ellipse. There were so many people there. And also, a lot of us were carrying bags, and to get into the ellipse, you weren't allowed.
But it was on record, and we can see
Oh,
it
yeah.
on record. But Trump said to go to the Capitol peacefully and
Peacefully and
protest.
patriotically, let your voices be heard. Yeah, we're march to the
So
Capitol.
then you went from the Trump rally, which was on or near the White House, to the Capitol. And then what happened?
Yeah. Well, we had reporters with us. I was with Mark Zahady, who is vice president of our group, Super Happy Fun America. And so we had reporters next to us the whole time, and I think that's what really got us in the end, was they had so many pictures of us all through and on Capitol grounds. But we just walked there, and then I saw that the bike racks, which were oddly around the Capitol, because I knew there were events at the Capitol, were all kind of sideways, like they'd all been moved and people were just walking on the lawn peacefully.
In other words, they were moved out of the way,
They were moved out of the way.
so you could gain
We were-
access to the
yeah,
Capitol
right.
lawn.
So people were just standing around, and some people were arguing, oh, Mike Pence is going to back down.
Vice
and,
President, yep.
Yeah, Vice President Pence as president of the Senate. And I was like, no, he's a Christian. He's not going to do that. And I believed in him. And then others were like, no way. And it turned out somebody with a satellite phone, because cell phones weren't working. But miraculously, a few people with
Why weren't
satellite
the cell phones working? Why do you think?
Everything was shut down.
So they shut down the electronics.
They shut down our ability to use our cell phones, yeah. So, and that's one of the, we had earpieces in because we were used to that from prior rallies. So we had Baofeng, I think shortwave radios with earpieces.
So there was really no-
Because we had to protect our people on the buses and, keep track of everybody.
So there was really no communication among all of you there?
No, just the leadership, because
Okay.
we were trying to keep everybody safe.
Yeah.
Because Antifa was attacking people.
And
We
I
had to
heard
make
on
sure.
that day that the restaurants were closed down, and
Yes,
you could.
that
They
was
didn't even
very
have. You know,
unusual.
when you go to large events, especially in DC, they have porta potties. They didn't even have those. there.
They had those at where the Washington Monument was, but the
Okay.
lines were so long.
But it was very far
But
away
then
from where you were.
right, well, we were close to them, but as we marched toward the Capitol, there were no
Okay, but
porta
still, you're
potties and
going-
nothing was
You're
open.
marching to the Capitol,
Mm-hmm.
and you're and then you go onto the Capitol lawn, and then
Mm-hmm.
what happened?
Then we were just waiting for the speakers to start, and since all the restaurants were closed, our original intention was not even to go to the Capitol because we were freezing and hungry, and we figured this is the 3rd time we're down here. We brought our group down. They're having a great time. Let's us go relax and celebrate. We wanted to go to this restaurant pub that we liked that was near the Capitol. But everything was shut down,
Yeah.
which was very odd because they made a lot of money at the last 2 rallies.
Yeah, I think, was it the city of Washington, the city government that did that?
Yeah, it was, Mayor Bowser.
Okay, so a Democrat mayor, of course. So you
Oh,
went,
yeah.
you're on the Capitol lawn, and then how do you go from the Capitol lawn into the Capitol
Okay,
itself?
well, when people heard about, Mike Pence just backed down, he's not going to vote.
Right.
Then people start yelling, Mike Pence traitor, and some were yelling, hang Mike Pence, but it was like tongue in cheek, they're kind of like laughing, hang Mike, ha ha.
Yes, of course.
It wasn't anything serious.
It was all
Of
rhetoric.
course, yeah. And the gallows that were built, they were so small, if somebody stood on them, I mean, the noose would probably be at this level.
What were those?
There were, somebody erected gallows that morning, probably around 8 a.m. or something. And the Capitol Police had to see them.
Yeah.
But then they took off.
But that was really
And they
just,
were never seen again. So that was, I think, part of a setup.
that was really just a sideshow. So
That was a
so
setup
you're
to
on the-
make
yeah.
us look bad.
So
because
you're on
it's
the
very iconic.
So you're on the Capitol grass, the lawn, so to speak, and then eventually you go into the Capitol. How
Right.
did you get into the Capitol
Okay.
building, which is a public building, by the way?
All right. Well, first
Open
we
to the
were
public.
attacked
Who attacked you?
by the police because when we heard about Mike Pence, we started to move closer in toward the Capitol, you know, because we're kind of all over the place, because to be closer to the speakers and, you know, so we could have our voices heard. Because I figured Mike Pence back down, they're all backing down. So, and next thing we know, phew, boom, and I'm like, what's going on? Some people thought they were fireworks, like, oh, we're celebrating. And it was tear gas canisters and CS gas and
So
sting balls and all these things, and they were shooting
most
rubber
of the Capitol
bullets.
Police were doing this, and this
Yeah,
is while
they
you
just
were
attacked the crowd.
This is while you were outside.
This is why, oh yeah, we were all outside. And some
They did
people
that.
blame it on the people who were right at the police line.
Yeah.
But what I found out from those people at the police line were, yeah, we might have been shouting things, but nobody was trying to breach anything. And then suddenly they started pepper spraying the people in the front and even people behind them. And they were, what are you doing? How dare you? You know, we're here legally. We have permits to be on this lawn.
Well, especially since
So,
you know, the MAGA pro-Trump people are among the most pro-police people in the country. They are. I mean,
Yeah. They were
especially
yelling.
they're the exact opposite of
Right.
the anti-police, anti-military leftist Democrats.
there were a lot of police in the crowd.
Yeah.
And there were also people yell, we back the blue. What are you doing?
Yes, indeed.
There were also 23% of the crowd was either military, active duty, or veteran,
Okay.
which is, that's a pretty high amount because I think it's a
So you-
much lower percentage
you had
throughout the
this-
country.
so you
these
had
are
this-
patriots.
Of course. So you had this. So the Capitol Police started doing this, and then eventually, the crowd started moving into the Capitol building itself.
Well, what happened was, you know, we'd still stay back whatever line they made, but I guess one of the police, when he shot a tear gas canister, it misfired and he wound up tear gassing, well, the cops. So they all ran in the building coughing, so everybody moved up. Figured, oh, well, the police line's
moved up.
not here, everybody moved up. So that's what kept happening. There was just a gradual, and then we were on the steps, and then we were in the balcony area, and it was
And
just,
then the doors were open to the Capitol,
eventually
Okay.
they opened.
and you could go in.
What happened was I saw a window broken where we were, because Mark and I walked over to the Senate Parliamentarian Wing, and it's an alcove. So the way it's set up is you have these alcoves, and in the middle is the dome, and then another alcove for the House. So we were over here, and we saw somebody standing in a broken window, and I said, they shouldn't have done that. This building is sacred. Because it was, I mean, our framers were still alive when it was built.
Yes,
So
indeed.
then we said, Mark said, yeah, let's get out of here. So we started to leave, and then I saw these people walking up these little steps to the side, going in a door, and I said, well, they look peaceful. Let's see what they're doing. My bad, that was the one thing. But when we got in, the police were just standing there. They looked kind of bored, and I know some people had asked, I just need to use the bathroom, is that okay? And the police pointed them to where the bathrooms were. They went to prison for that.
That's what I saw on TV.
Yeah.
I was home recovering, as I mentioned, and I just saw people walking into the Capitol, and the commentators.
With permission,
The
yes.
commentators didn't comment on anything. People were
No.
walking in and taking pictures. They weren't
Right.
breaking statues or ripping flags or damaging
They were
things. They weren't doing
picking
anything.
things
It was-
up
this
if
was
they
on
saw-
TV. This
Right.
was on TV that I saw, and this is what everyone else saw.
Right.
So then you went into the Capitol, and then how long were you in there for? Would you
It
guess?
was about 20 minutes.
20 minutes. So you just walked around.
Walked through, and there were police in front of us. It was kind of like they led us on a guided tour down a hall. We didn't go in any offices.
Yeah.
But so we're just following them. And every once in a while, they turn around and hold up their police sticks, and we'd stop too. And we figured, well, there must be a traffic jam or something.
Yeah.
But eventually, when they did that, I guess some guys were yelling, "You guys are traitors," to the cops. And I said, "Don't you dare say that to them. They're patriots like we are. They love this country as much as we do." And then I said, "We're not here to hurt you. This is peaceful." And next thing I know, they part ways.
Police.
The police, they moved to the sides, and we're looking, and we're like, "Thank you," and they're going like this.
Were they in riot?
I said,
they weren't in riot gear inside.
They were wearing the masks.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
they were.
Okay.
I don't know if they all were. Geez, we're going back many years now. But I know some had the helmets on, but I could see their faces because they looked like they didn't know what to do. They looked like it was upsetting, to them
So you were
in a
just
way.
walking around. You didn't go into anyone's office.
No, we walked down a hall,
Yeah.
following the police. Then they parted, and people are saying thank you, and and the police are nodding, and some of them went like this.
So then
Where's that exculpatory evidence?
so
I
then
never got that.
At some point, you decided that you should leave, and then you left.
Well, we walked down a hallway, and there were some police standing by doors, and one of them said, "If you leave now, nothing will happen to you." So we had to get back to our buses.
Yeah.
So, but we were like, "Well, yeah, okay, we'll leave. You're asking us to leave. We'll leave."
So you left the building, and
So-
then you went back eventually to
And
the
then we
bus.
went back to the buses.
How did, and then eventually you received, well, tell us what happened. Tell us when they came to your house. Who came to your house?
Well, they came to my house
to arrest
13
you?
days later.
Who specifically?
It was the 3 FBI agents and 1 Natick police officer.
Okay.
That has to be there legally.
Yep.
And it was, they
What time-
they kind of busted
what
in
time
at
of day did
6
they-
a.m.
6 a.m.
Yeah,
they
they
came to your
did
house
simultaneous
in the middle of
raids
winter.
with Mark Zahady and me, as if we're going to call up and say, "Hey, you better run to Canada."
So 6 a.m.
It's
6
like
a.m. in
ridiculous.
early February. It's probably
Yeah.
not even light out.
Yeah.
So they banged on your door. You let them in, and then what happened?
They just kind of burst in.
Yeah.
My ex-husband opened the door because he said, "It looks like the FBI." And he opened the door, and they just, boom, came in real fast. And they said, "Well, we have a warrant for your arrest." And I should have asked for it. I never saw it. And I was just like panicking at that point. And he's like, "Just sit down." He said, "They're just misdemeanors. They're
Just misdemeanors.
just
Did they
misdemeanors.
read the arrest warrant? to
Well,
you?
it was 2, I don't remember. It was kind of a blur, but
Okay.
I know it was, at the time it was disorderly conduct on Capitol grounds and trespassing in a restricted area.
That's it.
And restricted area meant Mike Pence was in the building, but we had heard from somebody on a satellite phone beforehand that Mike Pence was evacuated.
So they arrested you, and they put you in the back of
Excuse
this
me.
squad car. Where'd they bring you?
Well, first to the Natick police station, because I had to be booked there. And
They fingerprinted you.
Yeah, they fingerprinted. It was like a
Did they
digital
take a
thing.
mugshot?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I know. It was ridiculous.
Then they brought you into Boston. Or did they?
Yeah, then I went with the FBI into Boston, and they weren't being too. And I remember saying to them, "Geez, I guess you're not used to bringing people in on misdemeanors." And the one turned around. She said, "No, we're not."
So they
Like,
arrested.
She agreed it was ridiculous.
When did you get out? After you were arrested? And-
Oh, that day, but it was late in the day. So
Okay,
I
so
was
they-
put in a cell. I was put in leg irons,
You were put in leg
and
irons.
I had handcuffs. They took the handcuffs off,
Yep.
but the handcuffs were from the house, and
Were
everything.
you arraigned before a judge?
Yeah, but it was at like 2:30, 3 in the afternoon, so I
Then-
had to wait there all day, and they weren't
In
feeding us.
handcuffs. And leg irons.
No, they took the handcuffs off, but
they
I
kept
had
you in
leg
leg irons.
irons inside a cell. It's like, you
So,
can't take these
For
off?
disorderly conduct and trespassing, misdemeanors. So then you got out on bail, or what was it? Personal recognizance?
Yes, personal recognizance. Mark Zahady, they flipped his house, though, and they kept him in for 3 days.
When you say
in-
flip, that means they searched
That they
thoroughly.
searched his
Mark
house.
Zahedi is, of course, an
Mark-
activist from the Boston area.
Yeah, and he's my friend, and that's who
So,
I was.
So-
He was helping with the buses.
so then eventually you went before a judge where? In what district? In Washington?
Yes, most of it was by Zoom because this
Zoom.
is
It's
COVID,
COVID.
and yeah. So
And so
they did
So
Zoom.
they charge you with disorderly conduct and trespassing.
they added a third charge, disorderly conduct in a restricted area, which is the second disorderly. And again, restricted area
what did you
means the
plead?
Secret Service
What
protected
did you
was
plead?
there. I pled not guilty at first, and eventually, it wasn't until like a year and a half later. It was August of 22
Yeah.
that the prosecutor offered me a plea deal, and he said, plead guilty to the lowest level disorderly conduct, Class C misdemeanor.
Yeah.
It's like nothing.
And then what would happen?
And he said, then we'll drop the other 2 charges. So I said, I can't plead guilty to any of these charges because I don't meet the statute. I'd be committing perjury.
Yeah.
And he told my attorney, tell her it doesn't matter if she's guilty or not. What matters is I can convince a DC jury she's guilty.
And then what would have happened? Potentially.
Well, what they were doing, if you refused to take the plea deal, they were adding new charges. And I mean,
And it could have added
serious
for
charges.
a very long time.
Yeah. With Mark
So-
Zahedi, they added a misdemeanor
sentencing.
and then a 20-year felony just for not taking the plea deal.
So you had a plea bargain, and
Yes.
they put you in jail.
Yeah, for
Where?
disorderly conduct, you would expect maybe a fine.
Right.
I mean, that's all they've ever given
Where
anybody inside who went inside the Capitol.
They put you in jail where and for how long?
They sent me all the way to Philadelphia, FDC. It was a medium security prison. It was extremely violent. It was extremely filthy. There were mice and bugs.
So they
and
put you.
people
was
smoking
it a,
meth.
Was it a women's prison or a
Yes,
women's section? So
it was a women's section.
So they put you in jail with all these hardened criminals, all these
Yeah.
repeated violators, and there you are in jail for 2 weeks, I believe it was.
And the guards told me, don't tell anybody in here you're only in here for 2 weeks. They'll beat you up. And that,
So
it was
you're-
like, well, this is part of the punishment,
you were
isn't
in
it?
jail,
They
and
want
you're
me to
with
get
all
beat
these
up.
all these hardened criminals, and then
Yeah.
then they let you out in this very miserable experience.
Yeah, and then I had to go on probation, which was illegal to give me both probation and prison because I had such a low-level misdemeanor. It's
Yes.
probation or prison, not both.
So-
and the judge said, well, it's January 6th. We're changing the rules.
We're changing
and he
the
gave
rules.
me both.
So then
But it
they
was-
let you out, and if we may fast forward to January 20th, when Donald Trump had his inauguration, which
Mm-hmm.
I was in attendance, by the way, in Washington, D.C., and Donald Trump did what?
Donald Trump kept his promise and pardoned us on day one.
When you say us, who's us?
He pardoned 1,500 January 6ers who were either indicted or already convicted.
I have a copy of that
So-
pardon here. Now, I know it's hard to see, but if you can, just try to zoom in on it. And I'm going to read this to you. I've never seen a presidential pardon, but I'm going to read this to you briefly. And it says, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, certificate of pardon to Suzanne Ianni, was pardoned by the presidential proclamation of January 20th, 2025. The pardon applies only to convictions for offenses related to events that occurred at or near the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021, as directed by the proclamation of pardon and in witness whereof, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to the named person, done at the City of Washington, District of Columbia, on February 5th, 2025. So, again, this is suitable for framing, and I've told Susan to frame this, and she has. And this is a presidential pardon. So Sue Ianni has been cleared of all and any of the fictitious charges by the politically motivated Biden administration and their cohorts in Congress. And again, she was imprisoned in a hardened prison for misdemeanors, disorderly conduct, trespassing. This is nonsense. This is what college kids do all the time. and they're just given a slap on the wrist, if that. And, you know, it's upsetting, but I'm glad that you are vindicated, because you should have been vindicated, because you and many others like you suffered as a result. In that time period between the time that January 6th occurred until January 20th, 2025, you went through Holy Hell. You did,
Yes.
didn't you? There are a
Oh,
lot of
death
things that
threats
happened in your life.
Terrible
A
things.
lot of disruptions. You moved. I think you said you lost your job, and
I wasn't working, but Mark Sahady lost his job.
Okay, he did.
Everybody who was working
so
lost
everybody
their job or
suffered.
business.
And then Donald Trump came in, as he promised he would, and he gave everyone a presidential pardon, for which we're grateful to him. And I think that now, Sue, you've been vindicated. The American people recognize what happened to you. You were the victim of a political witch hunt. This should never have happened in America, but it did.
Yeah.
And this is a lesson for future historians to dissect. As to, this is really reminiscent of the McCarthy era of the 1950s, where so many people were unjustly accused and hurt by false accusations. But you, in fact, did serve time in jail. 2 weeks is 2 weeks. Nobody wants to go to jail for a day, let alone 2 weeks. But you were there, and I can't stress enough that you went there as a peaceful protester.
Yes.
You were a peaceful protester.
Never crossed a
And
police line.
Never did at all. And nevertheless, you were hunted down by them. Somehow they found you and they hunted you down. They persecuted you. But I have to say, you've been vindicated. And you have to know that throughout your life, that this injustice was done to you. The American people know that this injustice was done to you. And again, you have the seal of the President of the United States personally gave you this presidential pardon. And that's a wonderful thing. It really, really is. So, I mean, if I could, I'd hug you.
Thank you.
But you know, you deserve all the accolades that the American people can give you. You were courageous in doing that. You were courageous in going there. And you're courageous, quite frankly, for being here today. But you have nothing to be ashamed of.
I'm not ashamed.
You have only thing, but people tried to make you ashamed. You have only to sit there with pride, and with the admiration that the American people will bestow upon you, because of your courage in going there that day and protesting what you and many of us thought was very worthwhile at the time. And 4 years later, Donald Trump came back to office and vindicated you and all the others. And you know, quite frankly, God bless you. And I'm glad you're here today. I really am.
Thank you.
This is the fastest 30 minutes in Talk TV.
Yeah.
And we're glad that you're here. And I would like to make this 2 hours, but this isn't the Joe Rogan Show. But I'm glad you came.
Thank
Again,
you.
Thank
I
you again.
appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you
so much,
God bless
Tom.
you.
God bless you as well.